Hello, welcome back to the latest episode of You Are My Boro. Myself, Dom Short, and from one star attraction to another. It was Rob Edwards last week, Mark Drury from BBC Tees this week. And to be fair, Mark, you've sorted, I say that, probably 3 weeks in a row because it was your interview with Kieran 3 weeks ago that sorted us well out for a week online in the paper on here. So yeah, thanks a few weeks on for sorting that. So we're recording Wednesday.
I must get in touch with your editor about my cut. I really must.
Well, you mean to say that he told BBC Tees Sport isn't enough? Isn't enough?
It's all we need.
Wednesday, we're recording early afternoon Wednesday, obviously on the back of Borough's 0-0 draw with Stoke City on Tuesday night. We'll reflect back on that. We'll touch back on the Southampton game as well, but only briefly, and we'll look ahead to Portsmouth at the weekend and discuss the various talking points to have come out over the course of the last few days. Let's start with Stoke though, Mark, and that game last night. What were your thoughts on it in general?
I thought Borough largely bossed the first half and should have been in front by the break. And then in the second half, things got very rocky indeed at the back, and Stoke, well, I'm sure Stoke went home thinking we should have won that. So it was, I think, Borough's hardest game yet in the Championship this season. And perhaps it shouldn't be any surprise, bearing in mind who's in charge of Stoke. He's a good manager, isn't he, Mark Robins, as he likes to keep reminding Borough.
And they're a good team, aren't they? They're a good team. You could see last night, especially in the second half, after the changes that Robins has made. And we've talked at length on this pod and various publications over the course of the last few weeks about Edwards' bold, positive substitutions. But as you alluded to there, Borough are the victims of Robins' proactive management, substitutions, changes in the past, aren't they? And his half-time changes last night, I thought, changed the game. Borough improved after Edwards then made the changes. I thought Hansen and Sen coming on. But yeah, the half-time changes turned the tide really, didn't they, to Stoke's benefit?
They did. I thought it was interesting before the game that Mark Robinson had made so many changes anyway, 5 changes from the team that had drawn at home to Norwich. And I do wonder, I actually messaged someone before the game saying, do you reckon he's trying to be a bit too clever? Because I wonder what effect Adi Vivash being in the Borough dugout had on Mark Robinson's thinking. You know, there's a man who knows him inside out. There's a man who worked alongside him for 7 years, and obviously was a huge part of his coaching team and his selection thought. So I do wonder if he outthought himself a little going into the game, but he sorted it out. That's what good managers do, isn't it? If they have made a mistake, or if they think it's not going the way they thought it was going to, they do something about it. In the same way that we've talked about Rob Edwards doing so often. So yeah, I thought Stoke have been ridiculous, haven't they, for years now? Well, they have. Every year, every year somebody will say, "Oh, maybe this is Stoke's year," and you look and go, "Well, why would it be?" Yeah, they've spent a boatload of money. Yeah, but they've bought the wrong players at the wrong time, haven't they? They've had it's just never been right. And then he comes in last year, and even then you think, oh my God, even Mark Robins might not be able to save them, and he did. But he's had a summer under his belt. He's got them, certainly from what we saw last night, he's got them playing in a way that really suits the players he's assembled. And he's a master of getting teams punching above their weight. Certainly when you look at the transfer fees that he pays for players and the way he brings them on. So they're always more than the sum of their parts, Mark Robins' teams. And it looks like he's working his magic again with Stoke. I mean, Sorba Thomas, when have you ever seen Sorba? And he's always been a good player. He's always possessed good delivery. But when have you ever seen him as effective over the course of a whole game as he was last night? I haven't. So there's just one example of a player that he's managed to get hold of, and at the moment he's getting the best out of.
We've explained before, I'm sure, when you've been on the pod, the dynamics of how it works post match. You're obviously interviewing player and Rob Edwards down in the tunnel, whereas we tend to wait in the press room for him to come in. I haven't listened to Edwards' interview with yourself yet yesterday, but what he said to us when he came in was that there was a moment in the second half. He was disappointed. He was frustrated for two reasons in the first half: the penalty, which we'll get to, and the fact that Boro didn't take advantage when they were on top. But in the second half, he said there was a moment where he realised the priority here now for us has to be we don't lose the game, and I think that's refreshing, isn't it? You know, how many times did we say last season, I know this is trotting out a Neil Warnock classic, but if you can't win, don't lose. And draws, I often think we're guilty in football of like pooling it together and thinking, oh, that's only 2 points out of 6 now. If you take games in isolation, a draw away at Southampton, I think is a good result. A draw at home to a Stoke team that's right there, and I think is going to be there certainly in the top 6-7 at the end of the season. Is a good result. Don't lose the game. If you can't win the game, don't lose it.
Yeah, I've still got a bit of a feeling about Southampton. Not because they don't have good players, they do. I just think that's about as good an opportunity as you're going to get to go to a relegated team and win. But the fact remains, Boro didn't play particularly well, and therefore the fact they dug a point out of it, speaks well of them. Last night is a much more you're much happier with last night's point, I think, aren't you? Because Stoke just were an awful lot better than Southampton were. But yeah, he did say to me when I spoke to him, he said, yeah, there was a point where I thought, I don't think we're winning this, so I need to shore it up. I need to make sure we don't lose it. And funny enough, when I was commentating with Neil Maddison, we were just talking about the fact Boro was starting to rock a bit. They were getting a bit rocky at the back. And we saw who he was bringing on at that point, the two defensive substitutes. And I did say, I wonder if he's getting the same feeling we're getting. And obviously from speaking to him afterwards, he was. And how refreshing is it for us to speak to and for the fans to hear from a manager who, to be frank, it feels like has watched the same game we have.
Yeah.
I can't put it in more straightforward terms than that. That's the feeling I've got from Rob Edwards throughout his time here so far. And it doesn't mean it will always see it that way, does it? I'm sure there'll be times that fans will go, I don't know what he's on about there, or I don't agree with that. But on the whole, it feels like he's watching the same game that we're watching, and he's talking in the terms that people would understand and agree with. So yeah, I thought he got it right, because, and he's right when he said to me, and he probably said in the main press conference with you, that we're human beings and we can't always be at our best, and they weren't at the best. Certainly for 90 minutes last night, they did some really good stuff at times, but that was mainly in the first half. Second half, it was a slog, and you're right. Emerging with a point from that, it just keeps things going. It keeps them just moving forward. We don't know what's going to happen tonight with Coventry, for example, but it's another point on the board, and better that than sitting here talking about a game that got away from them that they should have got something from.
Yeah, 8 unbeaten now, which surpasses Brian Robson's 7 in the 94-95 promotion winning season, obviously. Penalty, Tommy Conway, or not?
I think you should always judge it on your first view, watching it live, because that's what the referee gets. And my feeling was immediately penalty. I was just waiting for him to point to the spot to give it, and he didn't. And then we saw a replay, and I've only seen it from one angle, and I still think it's a penalty from that angle. And it's probably a similar angle to the one the referee had as well. But I think referees aren't having Tommy Conway now. I think there's a bit of a theme developing here.
He was asked about that. Edwards was asked about that in the written
press
conference after, and he didn't entertain it. But I'd seen a few discussing it on social as well. Yeah, I'd seen a few fans.
I'm entertaining it. I think referees at the moment aren't having him. I think they think he goes down too easily, and so he's not. He didn't get. I think last night he didn't get a penalty he should have got. I thought he was clearly clipped across the angles, and it should have been a penalty, and it wasn't.
I think as well, you said there, you're judging on your first viewing. I also think judge on the player's reaction. And it was clear immediately, wasn't it, that Conway was absolutely adamant. And even at half time, he was still chipping away in David Webb's ear
Yeah.
as they walked off, weren't they?
And Luke Ayling, the captain, had come across to have a chat as well. I mean, they were incensed, weren't they? They were absolutely adamant.
Mark Robbins was good after. So Robbins was asked about it and he said, I've got the quote here. It could have gone our way. It could have gone either way, but it's gone our way this time and we'll take it. They'll be disappointed with it. It's always just down to the referee in the moment. It can be difficult for them. The referees have to make a judgment immediately. That was quick, no doubt. I think he was talking about him falling unnaturally, which I'll be honest, I don't think it was unnatural. Fair play. You know, how many managers would have just trotted out, I haven't seen it back. I haven't seen it back, so I can't comment. But to talk so openly and to basically say, I mean, he's gone around the houses, but he said, I think it should have been a penalty, or I think we're lucky to get away with it. Fair play for an opposition manager. You know, had they lost the game, you know, then let's see. But yeah, it's refreshing again, isn't it, to hear an opposition manager talking so honestly about a decision like that.
It's good. It's just essentially, it's just people are being grown ups, aren't they? People are being adult about it. They are. And you're right. Perhaps that's easier to do when you have got something from the game. When you are Mark Robbins, and that decision was, could have gone against you. But yeah, I'd like to think he would have said, even if it had been given, I'd like to think he'd have gone, yeah, well, can't really argue with that. I would have expected a penalty if it was our player. So yeah, hats off, fair dues to him.
Now for the weekly, which centre half has got an injury? Worry section. George Edmondson. On a personal level, you're so frustrated for him because it was his chance, wasn't it? He's had his setbacks.
Yeah.
He's been in and out, and he'll probably be looking at that after Lenahan's latest setback. Fry just working his way back. If Edwards is going to play, I know played a back four last night, but if he's playing the three, then there's clearly an extra spot there. It was his chance to nail down a spot, wasn't it? Hamstring injury. We don't know how long, but Edwards said afterwards he looks set to miss Portsmouth game. Let's see what he says on Friday about it, but not ideal.
They're not often quick, are they? Hamstrings to recover from. Yeah, I felt for him because West Brom, he had his chance and he got that whack on the eye and he was off before half time. And I spoke to him at Southampton at the weekend post match, and he was saying there that how he'd been desperate not to come off in that West Brom game because he said, I knew this is my chance. I hadn't played since competitive games since February or something. I knew I've got to make this count. He went, and then I just couldn't see. There was stuff going on I just couldn't see, and I just And then he was so happy to have played the full game at Southampton, and to feel like, yeah, this is it now. I'm in the team and I've got my chance to stake my claim. And particularly with, as you said, Darragh Lenihan getting injured again. So yeah, I mean, God, what, a minute and a half in, if that, last night for it to happen. He's having no luck at all. He's having absolutely no luck at all. And being a central defender at Middlesbrough should come with some sort of health warning because
I hope Adil Somalander isn't watching, by the way. I suspect he probably won't be, but still.
Well, you never know. He might be doing his homework. How many have they gone through over the last 3 years? Say, it's getting silly now, isn't it? It really is getting silly.
He brought Sammy Silvera on last night, moved Ayling inside, and explained afterwards it was because the plan for Dale Fry was always like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. He didn't want to risk. He said something like, if I'd have brought him on then, we'd have probably been bringing him back off again, which makes you wonder, will he be ready for Saturday, or is that too much of a risk, especially when you've got 2 weeks after? If Britain's back, do you stick with a back four and go Ayling and Jones? Can you play a back five, move Brown back? I don't know, potentially. What do you think he does? What do you think he does at Portsmouth on Saturday?
Well, first of all, I suspect Callum Brittain will be fit.
Yeah,
I don't know that, but that's just my gut feeling.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think he'll play. And then, well, it comes down to how much does he think he needs Dale Fry on Saturday? I'd play him. frankly. I think Portsmouth, this might sound daft when you're undefeated in 8 games at the start of the season, but I think Portsmouth is a game you have to be looking to win. If you're gonna keep this up,
Yeah.
and I'm still not thinking of Boro as automatic promotion candidates, despite the start they've had, but I am thinking about them as very definite playoff candidates. And I think you could do with just getting another win. After these couple of draws, I think Portsmouth are not in great form, and I think that would be looked at in the normal run of things. I think they'd look at that as a winnable game. So I think Britain will play, and then I suspect Fry will play, and I think he'll go back to his back three. And I don't know if that affords Fry any more protection in there, a bit less running or not, but I probably not. But I suspect he'll play him, because I think Boro are a better team when Dale Fry plays. Certainly this season.
You said there you don't see Boro as automatic promotion contenders yet. Is that what you're seeing, or maybe because we're only 8 games in? If you're seeing the same things from Boro, but we're 16 games in and they're still top second, do you see them as automatic promotion contenders then?
It's the time for him. It's the fact that we're only just into October, and it's not even a quarter of the season gone yet, is it? So it's not just about Boro; it's about the other teams. You've still got to surely expect that Leicester. I was going to say Coventry; they weren't relegated. Leicester and Ipswich.
Ipswich are the team, aren't they? You think they've got to
surely are going to get their act together and put a winning run together, and then they will. Squad depth is going to. I mean, look, we're already talking about central defensive problems at Middlesbrough. So squad depth over the course of a 46-game season is going to be massively important, isn't it, for everyone? So, yeah, I've just got this feeling that strength in depth, and Boro are, I think, quite a strong squad now. It's just there's something about those teams you think, well, surely they're going to come through, and they might prove too strong. But like you said, if Boro are still in this position in another 8 games, and they've still got a bit of a gap to the playoff places below them, then then you're pushing half a season, aren't you? And then you've got to say, well, look, they are obviously promotion candidates. It just feels too early yet to go the whole hog and say that for me.
Well, it's funny enough, we were talking about this in the press room last night before the game, and we were on about Boro's unbeaten starts and that Brian Robson one. And did Mowbray's go 11?
God, I can't remember, but I remember them being top 2 at New Year.
Yeah, and missed out on the top 6. Now, this squad, you only have to look at that squad and think, how on earth did Mowbray get Boro 11 games unbeaten and in the top 2 at Christmas? So I don't think it's comparable. This squad is a lot stronger than that one. But it's also just a warning, a reminder, isn't it, as to how quickly things can change and how you can't take things for granted. Flip that, we've talked about it a lot. Flip that and look at Sunderland last season. Nobody fancied them, got off to a flying start, never looked back and used that momentum to fire them through the season. So that it works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah. But the thing with Sunderland is, you're right, that's the encouraging perspective. But the plain fact was, they still ended up quite a few points off automatic promotion.
Yeah. 24.
They nailed the playoffs, but just that extra step to get top 2 was too big. So that's just what's in the back of my mind, that I think it is so difficult to get into the top 2 in this division. But what we've seen so far is different to last season. You haven't got those 2 teams and Sheffield United setting this just breakneck pace at the top of the division. It's, Boro have had the best start of anyone, and it is so tight beneath them, isn't it? And a lot of draws. I think Paul Heckingbottom was talking about this at the weekend. He said there's loads of draws. It's so tight. Everybody's drawing, and that possibly tells you something about the state of the division. So you look at the teams who are in the top 6 or 7 at the moment. It still feels like there's a lot to shake out yet. There's still some surprising names in there, I would say. So yeah, let's see where we are in another 8 games.
You mentioned Sheffield United there. Chris Wilder's had an unorthodox few months, hasn't he? Sacked, now suspended and sent off for booting a ball in the stands and hitting a fan. I mean,
I haven't seen it yet. I'd love to see that.
Give it a search after this. It's online.
It does. There's clearly something off there, isn't there, at Sheffield United? I've seen, I'm like you, I'm sure everyone's seen the statistic about only one team having previously escaped relegation in the Championship, having had the start that Sheffield United
I haven't seen that. No,
and that was Sheffield Wednesday. And you look and you think, yeah, but come on, surely not. And then Chris Wilder comes back, you go, oh, they'll be fine now. They'll be fine. And it hasn't been the instant rocket boosters that you might have expected. Yeah. So, and then just daft things like that happening. You think, ooh. But again, a long way to go. But yeah, it's not the return from the career break that he would have wanted, is it?
Just to wrap up then, you mentioned there about the squad depth Boro have, and at the minute they're stretched at the back, but going forward they're certainly not stretched. Edwards has options in attack, doesn't he? It was Strelic, Conway and Nipan last night. There's every chance that he could play a completely different 3 on Saturday. Sen, Whittaker and Hansen. I thought Sen and Hansen both made a difference from the bench against Stoke. What will he do? What should he do on Saturday? What do you think he will do on Saturday?
Well, I mean, should is just what you like, isn't it? What would I like?
What would you like?
I would like to see David Strelec playing as one of the ones off the striker.
Right.
I don't think we're yet seeing the best of him. I think there's more to come, but my suspicion is that he would be better served as the one off the striker, and I think Tommy Conway would be better as the number 9. Yeah. Sver and Ipan, I would pick all day long, day and night. I think he looks special. He looks very, very special. So I'd go with those 3, but I'd just rejig it. So that's what I'd do. What do I think he'll do?
I think he'll freshen it up. I think he'll change.
Yeah, it's just which one. I don't think it'll be Hansen. Are you really going to drop Strelec? I don't know. I really don't know, actually. Let's go with let's say he goes with Whittaker, Nipan and Conway up top.
Oh, you think?
On Saturday. Yeah, Morgan Whittaker keeps coming back in, doesn't he? And he's got to put it together soon. Yeah. Otherwise time's going to run out for Morgan Whittaker. Undoubted talent there, but you need to see more from him. There needs to be more end product. But yeah, I suspect he might go with those 3 at the weekend, based on nothing more than gut feeling.
Well, I agree with you. I thought last night was Strelic's. We saw more flashes last night than we've seen previously when he had the ball. When he had the ball, you could see, couldn't you, his class. Like, he dug that shot out. There was a couple of times he just threw defenders off him, really, and made something out of nothing.
Didn't have the ball enough, though. That's the thing.
That was it. But he just didn't have the ball enough, did he? Boro didn't get the ball to him enough. I wonder. I'd like to see, because when Strelic came in, Edwards said, didn't he, in his first press conference, I can see him playing in any of those 3 roles. Well, we've only seen him as the striker.
So I wonder about that. I wonder, is it that they're concerned about the defensive side of the game, that they think, Tommy Conway will be more diligent tracking back? If so, I wouldn't necessarily worry about that, because I think we've seen Strelic, working back and coming back into midfield and what have you. But that's literally what they're paid for. They see them on the training ground, and perhaps Strelic has said, "Look, I want to be the number 9. That's where I think I'm at my best." So they're still getting to know each other, aren't they? Really, it's still early days, but I just have a sneaking feeling that I think he and Boro would be better served by swapping things around, and he'd want to come in off the right if he's going to play anyway, wouldn't he, on his left foot? But I just think Tommy Conway is better. He's going to be better as the man up front.
Yeah, I think you get your best out of his strengths, playing him as the starting striker. I think the other thing, Edwards has talked a lot, hasn't he, about the running stats. and how hard Boro are running, really, the intensity of their efforts. Well, that gives him a reason to shake it up, or an excuse maybe to shake it up, because that is a challenge for a manager. When you've got 6 forwards we've named there, that is an undoubted challenge to keep all of those players happy, isn't it? The fact that they're working so hard. If he was going to play the same 11, I think he said there wasn't a press conference a couple of weeks ago, the players would break. If he played the same players week in, week out, the players would break. So,
well, he said that to me last night. Not that, but he said, we ask so much of them in training and on a match day. So you're right, there is that, excuse or reason there if you want to use it. But he's got a wealth of options, but we've still not really seen that attack properly click into gear in the last few weeks, have we? Since Strellett's arrived. So, I mean, I like him. I really like him. I think he looks like he could be very special. And again, I think in a few months' time, when he's got his feet properly under the table, I think there'll probably be very little prospect of him being rested or dropped or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you said it at Preston on the first game when he came on. There's just a presence there. And then Edwards said an aura, didn't he? He's got an aura about him. Yeah, I think there is that. And I think 3-game week or 3 games in 8 days. I can't remember which side of the argument you're on. You and Maddo regularly have it.
Well, yeah. I mean, last time I checked, there is only one Saturday in a week.
3 games in 8 days. Yeah, but we're guilty of falling into championship cliches on here as much as anyone.
Not that one.
I'd be amazed if he didn't. Bearing in mind there's 2 long trips in there, Southampton and Portsmouth. I'd be amazed if he didn't mix it up, freshen it up on Saturday, and at least change at least one of them, maybe even 2 of those forwards. We shall see. Well, thanks.
I was pleased to see Alan Brown get a chance last night, by the way.
It was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think I can remember one moment where he got caught on the ball. He just looked immediately at home, and I think, like we said it before, I think Boro have got a good one there.
There was the moment that got my attention. 91st, 92nd minute, when he chased back into the far corner and crunched into a tackle on the far side. And you think, And Edwards said after, he was asked about it, and he said, I think he's played in every game. Played a part in every game since he came in. I was saying to Craig Johns from the Gazette before the game, I said, I think Brown is one of them where at the end of the season you look and he'll have played in 36, 37, 38 of the games without, some of them might only be 5 or 10 minutes from the bench, but I think there'll be a fair few games where Edwards calls on him, like last night. I agree with you. I said it last week. I think Targett and Brown, 2 late loan signings, are both already looking really, really shrewd and clever bits of business, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Targett's playing his part as well, but I think Alan Brown, is going to feature quite heavily, definitely through this season.
Excellent. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I was running if you're watching on YouTube, you might have seen that I was running our latest offer across the bottom of the screen a bit earlier. That's just £5 for 5 months to subscribe to the Northern Echo, or 40% off an annual subscription, which gets you full access to all our Boro coverage. So as me and Scott always say, we massively appreciate the support there. And you can read Mark's interviews on there as well, because we take a fair few off him. And do subscribe. Yeah. I can't comment on the cut Mark gets from your subscription. Your subscription figures. And as if you haven't already, then subscribe to the channel. Just tap subscribe underneath. If you're listening on your podcast platforms, rate and review there as well. Keep your eyes peeled, because me and Scott will do a live in the next couple of weeks, probably over the international break. So if there's out you want us to discuss, then just give us a shout. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week and take care.